Every Christmas, I sit at the dining table in the house I paid for, watching him unwrap gifts bought with my money. 4 Christmases. Each time he called me his high-yield investment, I thought I was helping Mom. But she never saw a penny of those emergency financial transfers I sent. Until I found his bank statements and the gifts he bought for his 24-year-old mistress, I said nothing. I planned. And on the 5th Christmas, my gift was his complete destruction. My name is Nicole Martinez, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a senior financial analyst at Carrington and Field, one of Seattle's most prestigious investment firms. I've always been good with numbers. They don't lie, they don't manipulate, and they certainly don't pretend to love your mother while bleeding you dry. It started 4 years ago, when Mom called to tell me she was getting remarried. Her voice bubbled with the kind of happiness I hadn't heard since Dad died 8 years earlier. The man's name was Wayne Hutchinson. And according to Mom, he was such a gentleman, so considerate, so different from anyone I'd dated. I flew down to Portland that weekend to meet him. Wayne was 52, unemployed for the past 3 years due to corporate restructuring, but he carried himself like a CEO between jobs. Salt and pepper beard, perfectly pressed shirts, the kind of handshake that tried too hard to be firm. He had a 9-year-old daughter, Sophia, from a previous marriage. Sweet kid, quiet, always drawing in her sketchbook. Your mother deserves to be taken care of, he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Wayne told me over dinner that first night, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. I may be between opportunities right now, but I'm interviewing with several firms, tech consulting mostly. The market's just tight. Mom glowed beside him, touching his arm every few minutes, as if she needed to confirm he was real. After everything she'd been through, Dad's cancer, the medical bills that ate through their savings, working 2 jobs to keep the house, I wanted to believe this was her second chance. The wedding was small, just family and close friends in Mom's backyard. I paid for the catering and flowers, happy to contribute to her happiness. Wayne made a speech about building a new family foundation, about how Sophia finally had the mother she deserved, about fresh starts and second chances. Mom cried. I wrote a check for their honeymoon to Napa Valley. 2 months after the wedding, the request started. Honey, I hate to ask, Mom's voice crackled through the phone. But the furnace just died. And with Wayne still job hunting and winter coming. Of course, I sent the money, $3,000, wired directly to Wayne's account because Mom didn't trust herself with online banking. She'd never been tech-savvy, and Wayne had offered to handle all their finances. It seemed logical at the time. Then came Thanksgiving. The car needed new tires and brake work, another $2,000. Christmas brought its own expenses, presents for Sophia, a new laptop for Wayne's job search, fixing the roof leak that appeared right before the holiday. Each time, Mom called with that apologetic tone. And each time, Wayne got on the phone to assure me this was just temporary. Think of it as an investment in your mother's happiness, he'd say, that salesman's smile audible through the phone. Once I land something, I'll pay back every penny with interest. By the end of that first year, I'd sent nearly $20,000. I started a spreadsheet to track it all, an occupational hazard of being a financial analyst. Every transfer, every date, every reason. The numbers grew, but I told myself it was for Mom. Year 2 brought more creative emergencies. Sophia needed braces. The property tax came due. Wayne's car threw a rod. Sophia needed braces. The property tax came due. Wayne's car threw a rod. Always urgent, always just enough to hurt my savings, but not enough to make me say no. I suggested Mom get a part-time job, maybe something at the library she loved so much. Wayne doesn't think it's necessary, she'd say. He's so close to landing something big. Several callbacks this month. I started noticing things during my visits. New golf clubs in the garage, premium cable packages, Wayne's wardrobe shifting from job interview conservative to country club casual. When I mentioned it, Mom would wave it off. He needs to look successful to be successful, honey. Image matters in his field. The monthly transfers became so routine, I set them to autopilot, $3,000 on the first of each month, plus whatever emergency arose. Mom never questioned why I was sending money to Wayne's account instead of hers. She never asked to see statements or receipts. She just trusted him, the way she'd trusted Dad. Except Dad had never needed to ask his daughter for money. "You're like our little angel investor," Wayne joked during one Sunday dinner, raising his wine glass. Good wine, I noticed, not the grocery store brand Mom used to buy. Every startup needs funding in the early stages. Sophia, now 11 and still shy, looked up from her plate. "What's an investor?" "Someone who believes in potential," Wayne answered, winking at me. "Your sister here sees our family's potential." Sister, he'd started that recently, referring to me as Sophia's sister instead of stepsister, building that family foundation he talked about at the wedding, making me feel guilty if I even thought about cutting off the flow. I kept sending money, kept tracking it in my spreadsheet, kept telling myself it was for Mom. Even as the balance hit $40,000, then $50,000, Wayne's job interviews became vaguer. His promises of repayment more distant. But Mom was happy, wasn't she? She had someone to grow old with, someone who brought her coffee in bed, and called her beautiful. That's what I told myself as I approved another transfer, another investment in her happiness. The numbers didn't lie, but I was becoming an expert at lying to myself. It was just temporary. Wayne would find work soon. Mom deserved this after everything she'd been through. I just had to keep believing that, keep sending money, keep being the good daughter who took care of her mother. Even if her mother never saw a cent of it, the shift happened gradually, like a tide changing direction. Wayne stopped calling them temporary help and started using new vocabulary: family loans, internal investments, cash flow bridges. The corporate speak should have been my first red flag. Unemployed men don't usually sound like they are running quarterly earnings calls. "Nicole, sweetheart," he said during one of our monthly check-ins, "I've been thinking about restructuring our arrangement, making it more formal. You know, protection for both parties." I was reviewing portfolios at my desk, phone wedged between ear and shoulder. "What kind of restructuring?" "Well, these amounts you've been so generously providing, we should document them properly as loans with terms. It's the professional way to handle family financial matters." My fingers paused over the keyboard. I thought we were clear these were gifts to help Mom. Of course. But your mother and I, we don't like feeling like we are taking advantage. This way, when my ship comes in, we can square things properly, make everyone whole. The phrase, "when my ship comes in," made my skin crawl. It was the kind of thing desperate gamblers said at casinos. But I heard Mom laughing in the background, heard Sophia practicing piano, a piano I'd paid for 3 months ago, and swallowed my doubts. "Send me what you're thinking," I said. The document arrived that evening. Wayne had clearly spent time on it, probably using one of those legal template websites. It retroactively classified all previous transfers as interest-free family loans with a 5-year repayment term. The language was just professional enough to sound legitimate. Just vague enough to be meaningless. I called Mom directly. "Hey, I got Wayne's loan documentation. Want to talk through it together?" "Oh, honey, you know I don't understand all that financial jargon. Wayne handles those things. He's so good with details." She sounded distracted. Probably watching one of her cooking shows. "Did I tell you he's been talking to a headhunter?" Very promising leads in the biotech sector. Biotech. Last month it was sustainable energy. The month before, cryptocurrency consulting. Mom, these are significant amounts of money. Don't you want to understand? Nicole Marie Martinez. She used my full name, the way she did when I was young and being difficult. Are you suggesting I don't trust my own husband? The hurt in her voice was a knife between my ribs. No, Mom. Of course not. Wayne is working so hard to contribute. You should see him up at dawn every day, networking, updating his LinkedIn, sending resumes. It's not his fault the economy is tough for men his age. Men his age. Men who hadn't worked in 4 years. Men who somehow needed $3,000 a month for basic expenses while living in a paid-off house. I know, Mom. I'm sorry. He feels terrible about accepting your help. Just terrible. That's why he wants to formalize things so he doesn't feel like he's taking charity from his stepdaughter. I signed the documents. What else could I do? It was just paper, just words. The money was already gone. It had been flowing from my account to his for 2 years. At least now I had documentation, even if it was worth less than the PDF it was printed on. Wayne started sending monthly statements, Word documents dressed up to look official, listing running totals and projected repayment schedules based on his anticipated income streams. He'd even added a corporate logo, WH Financial Solutions LLC. I looked it up. No such company existed. During my Christmas visit that year, I noticed new things. A Rolex on Wayne's wrist. A state sale find, practically stolen at that price. New golf membership visible on the kitchen counter. Networking opportunity, you understand. Sophia had an iPhone, top of the line, while Mom still used her 5-year-old Android. You're doing so much for us, Wayne said after dinner, pouring himself another scotch from a bottle I recognized as a $60 single malt. I want you to know it's not taken for granted. Every penny is accounted for. Speaking of which, I said carefully, I'd love to see some of that accounting, just to understand where the money's going. His smile never wavered. Of course, I'll put together a full breakdown. Complete transparency, family CFO to family CFO, right? He laughed at his own joke. Though, I have to say, your mother's medical expenses have been higher than expected. Specialist appointments, new medications. I didn't want to worry you with the details. Mom looked up from loading the dishwasher, confusion flickering across her face. Medical expenses, Wayne. I haven't. The preventive care, darling, he cut in smoothly. The nutritionist, the wellness consultations, all those things keeping you healthy and beautiful. He kissed her cheek, and her confusion melted into that familiar, besotted smile. I never received the breakdown. When I followed up in January, Wayne explained his laptop had crashed, taking all the financial records with it. When I offered to help recover the data, knowing I had people with resources, he assured me he had hard copies somewhere, just needed to locate them in the garage. The garage full of new tools, sporting equipment, and boxes from high-end electronics retailers. Nicole's our angel. Steady income, no kids, feels guilty about her mom. Yeah, $3,000 monthly, plus bonuses for emergencies. I figure we've got another 2-3 years before she starts asking hard questions. I heard him tell someone on the phone one afternoon, not realizing I was in the hallway. I stood frozen, processing what I'd heard, the casual cruelty of it, the calculation, the assumption that I was too stupid or too sentimental to catch on. That night, I opened my spreadsheet and added a new column, expected repayment date. I filled every cell with the same value, never. The loan documents were fiction. Wayne's job search was performance art, and I was the audience of one, paying premium prices for a show that would run as long as I kept buying tickets. But I kept sending the money because somewhere in that house of lies, my mother was happy. And what kind of daughter puts a price on her mother's happiness? The kind who was about to learn exactly what that price included. Christmas year 3 arrived with fresh snow and familiar requests. Wayne called 2 weeks before, explaining that the holiday expenses were particularly challenging this year. Sophia needed winter clothes. The heating bill had spiked, and he wanted to make the holiday special for your mother. I transferred $5,000 without argument. My annual bonus had just hit, and I was too tired to negotiate. The spreadsheet showed I'd now sent over $90,000. The number felt abstract, meaningless, like points in a game I was destined to lose. I drove down from Seattle on December 23rd, my Audi packed with gifts I knew would be overshadowed by whatever Wayne had purchased with my money. The house looked different as I pulled up, new landscaping, fresh paint, solar panels on the roof, more investments I'd unknowingly funded. Mom greeted me at the door, wearing a necklace I'd never seen before. Diamonds caught the porch light, throwing tiny rainbows across her face. Nicole. Oh, sweetheart, you look tired. Wayne appeared behind her, all smiles and false warmth. Our favorite investor. Come in, come in. Wait until you see what Santa brought early. The living room had been redecorated. New furniture. Pristine hardwood floors where carpet used to be. A massive flat screen mounted above the fireplace. Sophia sat on the leather couch, absorbed in an iPad Pro, wearing what looked like designer jeans and a cashmere sweater. Wayne surprised me with this yesterday, Mom said, touching the necklace. Early Christmas gift, he said. Business has been looking up. Business. I kept my voice neutral. Consulting work, Wayne said smoothly. Few contracts here and there. Nothing major yet, but it's a start. Actually, that reminds me, Sophia. Honey, why don't you show Nicole your room? We renovated it last month. Sophia led me upstairs to what used to be Dad's old office. It was now a teenage dream, custom built-ins, a new MacBook on the desk, one of those expensive gaming chairs YouTubers advertised. She seemed embarrassed by the excess, mumbling something about not asking for all this. It's beautiful, I told her, because none of this was her fault. You deserve nice things. Dinner was elaborate, catered, I realized, recognizing the containers in the kitchen trash from Portland's most expensive Italian restaurant. Wayne held court, regaling us with stories about his promising negotiations and developing opportunities. Mom hung on every word. After dinner, while Mom and Sophia cleared dishes, Wayne pulled me aside. I have something for you, he said, producing an envelope. A token of appreciation. Inside was a Christmas card and a check for $500. The memo line read, First repayment installment. I know it's not much compared to what we owe, he said, watching my face. But I wanted you to see I'm serious about making good on everything. Your faith in us means the world, $500 against $90,000. It was insulting, but I recognized the manipulation. Asterisk give me just enough to maintain hope, to keep the pipeline open. Asterisk. I pocketed the check without comment. Later, I helped Mom in the kitchen while Wayne and Sophia watched Christmas movies. That's quite a necklace, I said casually. Isn't it beautiful? Wayne said he got a deal through a client. Estate jewelry. She touched it again, that unconscious gesture of someone confirming their good fortune. He's been so generous lately. Did you see Sophia's room? That child wanted for nothing this year. How nice. Which client? Oh, I don't know. Wayne handles all that. You know how I am with names. She dried a plate, humming. He's been working such long hours. Sometimes he's gone entire weekends meeting with investors in Eugene or Bend. Weekend trips. I filed that information away. I'm glad things are improving, I lied. The consulting work must be going well. He doesn't like to jinx it by talking too much. But yes, he even mentioned maybe taking a vacation this spring somewhere warm, maybe. After everyone went to bed, I sat in the living room with my laptop, unable to sleep. On impulse, I opened Facebook and searched for Wayne. His profile was locked down, but his friends list was visible. I scrolled through, recognizing some names from the wedding, and then stopped. Ashley Brennan, 24 years old, according to her profile, bartender at Sapphire Lounge in Spokane. Her photos were public, and as I scrolled through them, my blood turned to ice. There was Wayne in a photo from 2 weeks ago, arm around Ashley at what looked like an office Christmas party. Another from November, them hiking together. No wedding ring visible on his hand. October showed them at a Seahawks game in seats that probably cost more than Mom's monthly grocery budget. But it was a photo from early December that made me stop breathing. Ashley wearing a diamond necklace, the exact same necklace now sitting around my mother's throat. I screenshot everything, my hands shaking with rage. The weekend business trips, the estate jewelry, the consulting work that required him to be in Spokane, 3 hours away, where a pretty bartender was posting couple selfies with my mother's husband. Wayne appeared in the doorway, making me jump. Can't sleep. Me neither. Holidays, you know, so much excitement. He moved toward the kitchen. Want some tea? No thanks. I closed my laptop, the screenshots burning in my mind. That was generous of you, the Christmas bonus, he said, returning with a mug. Your mother doesn't know how lucky she is to have a daughter like you. She doesn't know a lot of things, does she? He paused, maybe hearing something in my tone. What do you mean? Nothing. Just that she trusts easily. It's one of her beautiful qualities, he said carefully. That open heart. We sat in silence, him sipping tea, me planning. He had no idea I had just found his weakness, his sloppy mistake. The same necklace for 2 women, arrogant, careless. Exactly the kind of error a man drunk on easy money would make. Well, he said finally, big day tomorrow. Better get some rest. Wayne, I called as he reached the stairs. That check you gave me, which account will it clear from? My consulting account. Why? Just wondering for tax purposes. He smiled. Always the financial analyst. Don't worry, everything's properly documented. I smiled back. I'm sure it is. After he went upstairs, I opened my laptop again and pulled up the screenshots. Then I created a new folder in my cloud storage. Asterisk evidence star. The necklace was just the beginning. If Wayne thought he could play my mother for a fool and use my money to fund his affair, he was about to learn what happened when you cross someone who analyzed numbers for a living. The 5th Christmas present was coming early this year, and it would be the last one ever opened. I left Portland the day after Christmas with a plan forming. The 3-hour drive to Spokane felt like minutes, my mind racing through possibilities. Ashley Brennan worked Thursday through Sunday nights at Sapphire Lounge. According to her Facebook, I booked a room at the Davenport Hotel and waited. Thursday evening, I walked into Sapphire Lounge wearing my most forgettable outfit, jeans, black sweater, minimal makeup. The bar was upscale, all mood lighting and craft cocktails. Ashley was behind the bar, exactly as pretty as her photo suggested. Blonde, bubbly, the kind of woman who probably believed every promise a married man whispered. I took a seat at the corner of the bar and ordered a martini. I watched, I waited. Around 9, my phone buzzed with a text from Wayne. Thanks again for the Christmas generosity. Your mother's already planning how to spend the spring vacation fund. Spring vacation fund. I'd sent $5,000 for Christmas, and he was already reframing it. I screenshot the text and added it to my evidence folder. Another Ashley appeared in front of me. All professional smile and practiced charm. Actually, I was hoping to ask you something. I pulled out my phone, showing her a photo of Wayne from the family Christmas card. Do you know this man? Her face transformed, surprise, then suspicion, then careful neutrality. Why are you asking? He's been consulting for my company. We're doing a background check. I slid my business card across the bar. Senior financial analyst, Carrington and Field. Completely legitimate. Completely misleading. She glanced around, then leaned in. Background check for what? Significant investment opportunity. He listed you as a reference. The lie rolled off my tongue like water. Wayne had taught me well, the best deceptions were wrapped in partial truths. He said that she looked pleased. Well, yeah, I know Wayne. We're together. He's actually planning to move here full-time once his divorce is finalized. Divorce? My stomach churned, but I kept my expression neutral. How long have you been seeing him? About 8 months. He's been so stressed with everything, the divorce, the custody battle over his daughter, his ex bleeding him dry. She shook her head sympathetically. That woman takes everything he earns from his investments. He showed me the bank statements. $3,000 a month in alimony, plus she's always demanding more. I gripped my martini glass to keep my hands from shaking. That must be difficult. He's handling it so well, though. Such a generous man. Look. She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo of the necklace. Early Christmas gift. Said he wanted me to have something beautiful while we wait for everything to be official. Stunning. When does he expect the divorce to be final? Spring, he says. Then we are taking a trip to celebrate, Mexico. Maybe Cabo. She smiled dreamily. He's already looking at condos here. Says once he's free from that witch in Portland, we can really start our life together. That witch in Portland, my mother, who wasn't divorcing anyone, who wore an identical necklace, who trusted her husband completely. Does he visit often? Every weekend, mostly, sometimes during the week if he can get away. His consulting work is flexible. She leaned closer. Conspiratorial. Between you and me, I think this investment thing could be his big break. He's brilliant with money, just needs the right opportunity. I recorded the entire conversation on my phone, tucked discreetly in my purse. 20 minutes of Ashley gushing about Wayne's investment genius, his tragic divorce, the ex-wife who didn't understand him, the teenage daughter he was fighting to protect from her mother's instability. He shows me the custody documents sometimes, Ashley said, refilling my glass without asking. It's heartbreaking. That woman is clearly unfit, spending all the alimony on herself while Wayne struggles to provide for his daughter. I thought of Sophia in her renovated room, her designer clothes, her iPad Pro. I thought of Mom's confusion about medical expenses she didn't have. The layers of lies were dizzying. Well, I said finally, leaving a generous tip, this has been very helpful. We'll be in touch about the investment opportunity. Tell Wayne I said hi, she called after me. But maybe don't mention we talked. He likes to keep business and personal separate. Back at the hotel, I uploaded the recording to my evidence folder. Then I did what I did best, followed the money. Washington State Public Records showed no divorce filings for Wayne Hutchinson. Idaho, where he'd mentioned having an account, showed nothing either. Oregon, same result. But I found other things. A DBA registration for WH Financial Solutions LLC, filed just 6 months ago, listing a Spokane address. The address turned out to be a UPS store mailbox. Business license searches showed 3 other defunct companies under Wayne's name, all dissolved within 2 years of formation. Credit report databases, available through my firm's research tools, painted an interesting picture. Wayne's credit was abysmal: collections, charge-offs, a bankruptcy from 2018 he'd never mentioned. No wonder everything went through his consulting accounts, rather than personal ones. I dug deeper. Social media was a gold mine. Ashley's Instagram, poorly secured, showed the full scope of their relationship. Expensive dinners, weekend trips, gifts that coincidentally aligned with my emergency transfers. A weekend in Bend when Mom thought he was meeting investors. A Seattle shopping spree the day after I'd sent money for roof repairs. The Mexico trip was already being planned. I found reservations at a Cabo resort through Ashley's excited posts, arriving in March. Ocean View Suite, all-inclusive package, that cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. My phone rang. Mom? Hi, honey. Just wanted to thank you again for such a wonderful Christmas. Wayne and I were talking, and we'd love to have you visit more often. Maybe once a month, family dinners, you know. Monthly visits, monthly opportunities to extract more money. I could practically hear Wayne coaching her. That sounds nice. Mom, how's consulting going? Oh, wonderful. He's actually heading to Spokane tomorrow for a big meeting. Potential investor. Very promising. He might be gone through the weekend, but it's such a good opportunity. I'm sure it is. I stared at Ashley's latest post, a selfie with the caption, "Can't wait for date night tomorrow." Nicole, you sound strange. Just tired, Mom. Long day at work. You work too hard, Wayne says. She paused. Well, Wayne worries you don't take enough time for yourself. No boyfriend, no social life. He thinks that's why you're so generous with us, because you don't have your own family to spend on. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. Wayne had positioned me as the lonely spinster, pouring money into her mother's happiness because her own life was empty. It was brilliant. Really evil, but brilliant. Maybe Wayne's right, I said carefully. Maybe I should make some changes. Oh, honey, I didn't mean, it's fine, Mom. Actually, I've been thinking about some investment opportunities myself. New year, new strategies, right? That's wonderful. Wayne would be happy to advise you. He's so knowledgeable about these things. I smiled grimly. I'm sure he is. Give him my best on his Spokane trip. After we hung up, I opened a new spreadsheet. Not for tracking money sent, but for documenting every lie, every deception, every dollar stolen. I had bank records to request, social media to archive, and a paper trail to construct that would make Wayne's house of cards collapse. He thought he was smart, juggling 2 women, bleeding me dry while playing the devoted husband and struggling entrepreneur, but he'd made the classic mistake of underestimating the person funding his lifestyle. The spring vacation to Mexico was 4 months away. More than enough time to ensure it would be a trip he'd never forget, assuming he could afford it from a jail cell. I called my assistant at Carrington and Field. I need you to set up a meeting with our corporate legal team. Tell them it's about a complex fraud case. High priority. The game had changed. Wayne just didn't know it yet. The meeting with Carrington and Field's legal team was illuminating. Marcus Webb, our senior corporate counsel, listened to my story with increasing interest, occasionally stopping me to clarify details. This is elaborate fraud, he said, reviewing my documentation. But proving it in court would be challenging. The money was given voluntarily, and you signed documents acknowledging them as loans, so he gets away with it. I didn't say that, Marcus smiled, a shark recognizing another predator. You need leverage, something that transforms this from a family dispute to a criminal matter, wire fraud, maybe tax evasion. Document everything. But we need him to take the bait willingly. That evening, I created something beautiful, a fake investment opportunity that would make any con man salivate. I called it Phoenix Ventures, complete with a professional website, corporate filing in Delaware, and a LinkedIn presence populated by profiles I controlled. The company specialized in disruptive financial technology solutions for emerging markets. The bait needed to be irresistible but believable. I crafted a startup story about a payment processing system for cryptocurrency that needed seed funding. Technical enough to sound impressive, vague enough to avoid scrutiny. The kind of opportunity Wayne would think he understood, but couldn't quite grasp. I spent 2 weeks building the trap, fake email chains discussing term sheets, a prospectus filled with meaningless, but impressive-sounding financial projections, even a demo video featuring paid actors I found on Fiverr, discussing market penetration and blockchain integration. Then I called Wayne. I have something that might interest you, I said, keeping my voice casual. A deal came across my desk that's too small for Carrington and Field, but might be perfect for an independent consultant. I could practically hear him sitting up straighter. Oh? What kind of deal? Fintech startup. They need $30,000 in bridge funding before their Series A closes next month. The returns are significant. How significant? Conservative estimate, 400% in 18 months. Silence, then. That seems high. Good. He wasn't stupid, just greedy. It is high. That's why I'm calling you. I can't touch it. Conflict of interest with my firm. But someone with your consulting connections. Send me the details. I emailed him the Phoenix Ventures package from a fake corporate account. Within an hour, he called back, trying to sound nonchalant, but failing to hide his excitement. This is interesting, he said. Very interesting. But $30,000 is substantial. I'd need to review everything carefully. Of course, though they are moving fast. 3 other investors are circling. Nicole. His voice took on that fatherly tone he used when asking for money. What if we partnered on this? You could be a silent investor. I could manage the relationship. Family venture. I pretended to consider it. I couldn't put money in directly, but if you had capital to invest, I could facilitate the introduction. Maybe structure it properly. Structure it. How? This was the crucial moment. Well, it would need to be documented correctly. A real investment agreement, not like those informal family loans. Legal protection for both parties. You'd be the principal investor, taking the risk, but also the reward. Right? Right? Professional approach. He paused. I might be able to free up some capital, recent consulting fees, you know, my money. He was planning to use my money to invest in my fake company. The audacity was almost admirable. There's one thing, I added. They require proof of funds and source documentation, anti-money laundering regulations. You'd need to show where the investment capital originated. The meeting with Carrington and Field's legal team was illuminating. Marcus Webb, our senior corporate counsel, listened to my story with increasing interest, occasionally stopping me to clarify details. This is elaborate fraud, he said, reviewing my documentation. But proving it in court would be challenging. The money was given voluntarily, and you signed documents acknowledging them as loans, so he gets away with it. I didn't say that, Marcus smiled, a shark recognizing another predator. You need leverage, something that transforms this from a family dispute to a criminal matter, wire fraud, maybe tax evasion. Document everything. But we need him to take the bait willingly. That evening, I created something beautiful, a fake investment opportunity that would make any con man salivate. I called it Phoenix Ventures, complete with a professional website, corporate filing in Delaware, and a LinkedIn presence populated by profiles I controlled. The company specialized in disruptive financial technology solutions for emerging markets. The bait needed to be irresistible but believable. I crafted a startup story about a payment processing system for cryptocurrency that needed seed funding. Technical enough to sound impressive, vague enough to avoid scrutiny. The kind of opportunity Wayne would think he understood, but couldn't quite grasp. I spent 2 weeks building the trap, fake email chains discussing term sheets, a prospectus filled with meaningless, but impressive-sounding financial projections, even a demo video featuring paid actors I found on Fiverr, discussing market penetration and blockchain integration. Then I called Wayne. I have something that might interest you, I said, keeping my voice casual. A deal came across my desk that's too small for Carrington and Field, but might be perfect for an independent consultant. I could practically hear him sitting up straighter. Oh? What kind of deal? Fintech startup. They need $30,000 in bridge funding before their Series A closes next month. The returns are significant. How significant? Conservative estimate, 400% in 18 months. Silence, then. That seems high. Good. He wasn't stupid, just greedy. It is high. That's why I'm calling you. I can't touch it. Conflict of interest with my firm. But someone with your consulting connections. Send me the details. I emailed him the Phoenix Ventures package from a fake corporate account. Within an hour, he called back, trying to sound nonchalant, but failing to hide his excitement. This is interesting, he said. Very interesting. But $30,000 is substantial. I'd need to review everything carefully. Of course, though they are moving fast. 3 other investors are circling. Nicole. His voice took on that fatherly tone he used when asking for money. What if we partnered on this? You could be a silent investor. I could manage the relationship. Family venture. I pretended to consider it. I couldn't put money in directly, but if you had capital to invest, I could facilitate the introduction. Maybe structure it properly. Structure it. How? This was the crucial moment. Well, it would need to be documented correctly. A real investment agreement, not like those informal family loans. Legal protection for both parties. You'd be the principal investor, taking the risk, but also the reward. Right? Right? Professional approach. He paused. I might be able to free up some capital, recent consulting fees, you know, my money. He was planning to use my money to invest in my fake company. The audacity was almost admirable. There's one thing, I added. They require proof of funds and source documentation, anti-money laundering regulations. You'd need to show where the investment capital originated. That's no problem. Everything's above board. Perfect. Should I set up a meeting? We scheduled for the following week. I hired a conference room at a downtown Portland co-working space and brought in 2 actors to play Phoenix Ventures executives. We rehearsed for hours, preparing for every possible question. Wayne arrived in his best suit, carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost $1,000 of my money. He'd brought documents, bank statements, the LLC filing for WH Financial Solutions, even a PowerPoint about his investment philosophy. My actors were perfect. They spoke in Silicon Valley buzzwords, drew complex diagrams on whiteboards, and treated Wayne like the sophisticated investor he pretended to be. They walked him through the technology, the market opportunity, the competitive landscape. His eyes glazed over during the technical parts, but he perked up at every mention of returns. The minimum investment is $30,000, one actor said. But frankly, for the right partner, we could go up to $50,000. The additional $20,000 would give you preferred shares. Wayne's eyes lit up. $50,000, and the return projections, conservative estimate, you'd see $200,000 within 18 months. Best case, $500,000. I watched him do the mental math. $50,000 of my money transformed into hundreds of thousands he'd never have to pay back. I'm interested, he said. Very interested. Nicole speaks highly of the opportunity. Ms. Martinez has been invaluable. The second actor said, her firm's seal of approval means everything, though of course, this is your investment, your risk. Of course. Wayne produced his documents. As you can see, WH Financial Solutions has significant liquid assets available for investment. I reviewed his bank statements with professional interest, photographing every page with my phone for compliance. The accounts showed regular deposits of exactly $3,000, plus occasional larger transfers, all traceable to my accounts, all documented. This is excellent, I said. Though I noticed these funds came from various sources. We'll need documentation on each transfer for AML compliance. Wayne's smile tightened. Various consulting clients. I can provide contracts. Perfect. And tax returns for the LLC, just the last 2 years. Tax returns. Standard due diligence. I'm sure you understand. He was trapped. Admit he hadn't filed taxes for the phantom company or promised documents he couldn't provide. I'll have my accountant send them over. We shook hands all around. The actors gave Wayne a sleek folder with investment documents to review, actually, a carefully crafted contract that would demonstrate intent to commit wire fraud if he signed it. Every page was designed to establish criminal intent, from false representations about fund sources to agreements to circumvent banking regulations. Take your time reviewing everything, I said as we left. This opportunity won't last long, but we want you to be comfortable. Oh, I'm comfortable, Wayne clutched the folder like a winning lottery ticket. Very comfortable. Shall we say Friday for final signatures? Friday's perfect. As soon as Wayne left, I high-fived my actors and sent them away with generous bonuses. Then I called Marcus Webb. He took the bait. Every word recorded, every document photographed. He's preparing to invest $50,000 he claims came from consulting work, but we can prove came from me. Beautiful. When he tries to wire the funds, that's federal wire fraud. The fake tax returns, he'll provide tax fraud. The source documentation, money laundering. You've built a work of art, Nicole. I learned from the best, I said, thinking of all Wayne's schemes. He taught me that the best lies are mostly truth. Friday was 3 days away, 3 days for Wayne to dream about his windfall, to maybe even brag to Ashley about the brilliant investment he'd sourced. 3 days before his world came crashing down. I drove home feeling something I hadn't experienced in 4 years, control. Wayne thought he was about to score the ultimate con, using my money to get rich. Instead, he was walking into a trap 4 years in the making. The only question now was whether to let Mom know before or after Wayne was arrested. That decision could wait. For now, I had a criminal to catch and a family to save, even if they didn't know they needed saving. Friday couldn't come fast enough. Friday arrived, but I had other plans for Wayne. Instead of meeting him for signatures, I drove to Portland on Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after discovering the matching necklaces. The 4th Christmas since this nightmare began, and the last one Wayne would ruin. Mom had invited me weeks ago, gushing about the special dinner Wayne was planning. He's been so secretive, she'd said. Says he has a big announcement. I think his consulting business is finally taking off. I arrived at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My car trunk carefully packed, not with presents, but with evidence, folders of bank statements, printed screenshots, audio recordings burned to CDs. My laptop loaded with the presentation. I'd spent weeks perfecting every transaction tracked, every lie documented, every dollar accounted for. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine. Mom bustled around the kitchen while Wayne held court in the living room, regaling his golf buddies with stories about his upcoming investment coup. Sophia sat quietly in the corner, sketching in her ever-present notebook. Nicole, Wayne stood when he saw me, all false warmth and practiced charm. Our family's guardian angel arrives, gentlemen. This is my brilliant stepdaughter, the financial wizard. His friends, 3 men, who looked like they'd stepped out of a country club catalogue, shook my hand with the kind of respect reserved for people who might be useful. I smiled and made small talk, letting Wayne bask in his imaginary success. Wayne tells us you've connected him with quite an opportunity, one said. Phoenix Ventures. Did he? I kept my voice neutral. Wayne always did have a gift for recognizing potential. $50,000 initial investment. Wayne said proudly. But the returns, well, let's just say next Christmas will be very different. Yes, it would be. Dinner was elaborate, catered again, I noticed. Wayne carved the turkey like a patriarch, telling stories about deals and ventures that existed only in his imagination. Mom glowed beside him, touching her necklace occasionally, the same necklace Ashley had probably pawned by now, since Wayne had stopped visiting Spokane after our Phoenix Ventures meeting. I waited until dessert was served, until wine had loosened tongues and Wayne felt secure in his kingdom. Then I stood, tapping my fork against my glass. I'd like to propose a toast, I said. To family, to trust, to investments that pay dividends. Everyone raised their glasses, Wayne beamed. And speaking of investments, I continued, I thought we might review some numbers. It is the season for year-end accounting, after all. I walked to the living room and connected my laptop to the TV. Wayne's smile flickered. Nicole, honey, maybe this isn't the time. Oh, I think it's perfect timing. The first slide appeared, a simple title. 4 years of financial analysis. What is this? Mom asked, confusion creeping into her voice. Education, I said, clicking to the next slide. Let's start with year 1. Total transferred, $22,000. Reason cited, home repairs, medical expenses, Sophia's needs. The room went silent. Wayne's golf buddies shifted uncomfortably. Year 2, $31,000. The categories expanded, car repairs, property taxes, Wayne's job search expenses. I clicked again. Interesting thing about job searches. They typically generate correspondence, interview requests, rejection letters. Wayne, how many interviews did you have that year? Nicole, this is inappropriate. 0. He had 0 interviews. I know because I hired a private investigator to verify. Click. Year 3, $42,000. The year Wayne's consulting business launched. WH Financial Solutions, LLC. Wayne, would you like to share your revenue figures for the year? His face had gone pale. Mom stared at him, then at me, then back at him. Wayne, what's she talking about? And this year, I continued, we're at $53,000 so far. Grand total, $148,000, not including the special Christmas bonuses. Click. A new slide showed bank transfers, each one highlighted and traced from my account to Wayne's. Every dollar tracked, every transfer documented. But here's where it gets interesting. The next slide showed Wayne spending Green's fees at Columbia Edgewater, Ashley Brennan's apartment lease in Spokane, first-class tickets to Cabo San Lucas. That was supposed to be March, wasn't it, Wayne? Who's Ashley Brennan? Mom's voice was small, broken. I clicked again. The photos appeared. Wayne and Ashley, pulled from social media. The matching necklaces, side by side. The restaurant receipts. The hotel bookings. Your husband's girlfriend, I said gently. The one he told you he was divorcing you. The one he spent my money on while you thought it was going to groceries and gas. Wayne stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. I don't have to listen to this. Sit down. My voice was ice. We're not done. Maybe it was my tone. Or maybe he saw something in my eyes, but he Saturday. Now, about Phoenix Ventures, I smiled. There is no Phoenix Ventures. I created it. The executives you met, actors. The opportunity, fiction. But your enthusiasm, that was real, as was your intent to defraud. You set me up. His outrage was almost funny. I learned from the best. Click. The contracts he'd signed appeared. These documents establish intent to commit wire fraud. The tax returns you promised to provide, those would have been tax fraud. The source documentation claiming consulting income, money laundering. You can't prove anything. The money was gifts. Loans at worst. About those loans. I pulled out the original documents he'd had me sign. Your paperwork was sloppy, Wayne. You forgot to have them notarized. They are worthless. But this. I produced a new folder. This is a real legal document, a demand for immediate repayment of $148,000 with interest, signed by my attorney. You have 30 days to pay in full, or we proceed with criminal charges. Criminal charges, one of his golf buddies muttered, edging toward the door. Wire fraud, tax evasion, theft by deception. I counted on my fingers. My legal team is particularly excited about the interstate commerce aspect. Since you crossed state lines to visit Ashley, that makes it federal. Mom was crying silently. Sophia had stopped drawing, her eyes wide. I hated doing this in front of them, but Wayne had left me no choice. He'd made them props in his con game. They deserved to see the truth. You're bluffing, Wayne said, but his voice shook. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Wayne's voice, clear as day, from that overheard phone call. Nicole's our angel. Steady income, no kids, feels guilty about her mom. Yeah, $3,000 monthly, plus bonuses for emergencies. I figure we've got another 2-3 years before she starts asking hard questions. Mom gasped. Even Wayne's friends looked disgusted. One more thing, I said, clicking to the final slide. It showed screenshots of messages between Wayne and someone named Bradley Chen, your investment advisor in Idaho. He's already been arrested for running a Ponzi scheme. You're listed as a co-conspirator. The FBI will be very interested in your connection. That was the killing blow. Wayne slumped in his chair, all fight gone. 30 days, I repeated. Full repayment, or you'll spend next Christmas in federal prison. And Wayne, I added, I've frozen the Phoenix Ventures opportunity. If you try to access those funds or contact anyone involved, that's attempted wire fraud. My attorney is watching. I started packing up my laptop. The room was tomb silent except for Mom's quiet sobs. Oh, and Mom, I turned to her, my voice softening. I've set up a new bank account in your name only. The house deed needs to be transferred, too. My attorney will help with the divorce papers. I don't. She looked lost, broken. I know. I'm sorry, but you're strong, Mom. Stronger than you think, and I'll be here. Wayne's friends had already fled. He sat alone at the head of the table he'd ruled with my money, surrounded by the feast he'd bought with my transfers. The king of a crumbling kingdom. Merry Christmas, Wayne, I said, heading for the door. Enjoy your dessert. As I left, I heard Sophia speak for the first time all evening. Mom, are we going to be okay? I paused in the doorway, waiting for Wayne's answer. But it was my mother who responded, her voice still trembling. Yes, sweetheart. We are going to be just fine. Nicole made sure of that. The fifth Christmas was still a year away, but for the first time in 4 years, I was looking forward to it. The 30 days passed in a blur of legal documentation and increasingly desperate communications from Wayne. First came the denial emails, claiming I'd misunderstood, that everything could be explained. Then bargaining offers to repay half if I dropped the criminal charges. Finally, rage-filled, threatening messages that Marcus Webb gleefully added to our evidence file. He's making this too easy, Marcus said during one of our strategy sessions. Every threat is another felony charge. I'd moved Mom and Sophia to a rental house in Lake Oswego, paid for 3 months in advance. The divorce papers were filed within a week of Christmas, and Wayne had been served at the country club, a detail I specifically requested. Mom is shell-shocked, but functioning, attending therapy twice a week and slowly reclaiming her life. On January 28th, with 2 days left on the deadline, my phone rang. Unknown number, Idaho area code. Ms. Martinez, this is Special Agent Sarah Walsh with the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. I understand you have information regarding Wayne Hutchinson and Bradley Chen. My heart raced. Yes, I do. We'd like to meet. Mr. Chen is cooperating with our investigation, and your name came up repeatedly. The meeting was set for the next day at the FBI field office in Portland. I brought Marcus and boxes of evidence. Agent Walsh, a woman who looked like she could audit your soul, reviewed everything with meticulous attention. Mr. Chen ran an investment fund that was essentially a Ponzi scheme, she explained. He's provided records showing Mr. Hutchinson invested $200,000 over the past 18 months. We've been trying to trace the source of those funds, $200,000 more than I'd given him. He told me he was unemployed. According to Chen, Hutchinson claimed to have multiple revenue streams, family money, consulting fees. She checked her notes. And a wealthy daughter who funded his lifestyle. Stepdaughter, I corrected. And I wasn't funding his lifestyle. I was trying to help my mother. We understand. Your documentation is extremely helpful. It establishes a clear pattern of fraud. She leaned forward. We are prepared to offer Mr. Hutchinson a deal, cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. But we need your agreement. What kind of reduction? Instead of 20 years, he'd face 5 to 7 in minimum security. Restitution would still be required. I thought about Mom, about Sophia, about 4 years of lies. No deal. He faces full charges. Agent Walsh smiled for the first time. I hoped you'd say that. Between your evidence and Mr. Chen's testimony, we have enough for federal wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, and conspiracy. We'll be making the arrest tomorrow. Tomorrow's the deadline for my repayment demand. What a coincidence. January 30th dawned grey and drizzly. I sat in my car outside the house, Wayne still occupying Mom's house, built with Dad's sweat and dreams. At 7:43 a.m., 3 black SUVs pulled up. Federal agents in windbreakers knocked on the door. Wayne answered in his robe, all arrogance until he saw the badges. The arrest was professional, almost anticlimactic. No dramatics, no resistance, just a middle-aged con man in handcuffs, being led to a vehicle while neighbors peered through curtains. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, this is Ashley, Wayne's girlfriend. I just saw the news. Can we talk? Asterisk, we met at a Starbucks in Spokane that afternoon. Ashley looked younger without her bartender makeup, hollow-eyed and confused. I don't understand, she said, clutching a chai latte. He said he was rich, said his ex-wife was crazy, that his daughter needed protecting. He had bank statements, showed me investments. All fake, I said gently. All funded by money he stole from my mother and me. She started crying. The necklace, she whispered, he said it was an heirloom from his grandmother. I wore it everywhere. Told everyone the story. My mom has the same one. Probably bought both at the same time. God, I'm such an idiot. You're not. He was very good at what he did. I pushed a card across the table. This is my attorney. You might want to talk to him about recovering any money Wayne took from you. He didn't take money. He gave it, rent, car payments, even helped with my student loans. Her face crumpled. Oh God, that was your money, wasn't it? Yes. I'll pay it back. I don't know how, but keep it, I said. Consider it compensation for being another one of Wayne's victims. Just, maybe be more careful next time someone seems too good to be true. She nodded, wiping her eyes. He talked about you sometimes, said you were cold, calculating, obsessed with money. He wasn't entirely wrong. But you're not what he said. You're just sad and angry, like me. We parted ways without exchanging numbers. Some connections are too painful to maintain. The legal proceedings moved swiftly. Wayne's assets were frozen, including several accounts I hadn't known about. The investigation revealed he'd been running similar scams for years: elderly widows, single mothers, anyone vulnerable with access to money. My mother and I were just his longest and most lucrative marks. In March, when Wayne should have been in Cabo with Ashley, he was in federal custody awaiting trial. His public defender tried to negotiate, but with Chen's testimony and my evidence, there was little room for maneuvering. The IRS had also entered the chat, as Wayne liked to say, with tax evasion charges going back a decade. Mom filed for divorce with prejudice. The house was transferred solely to her name. The joint accounts were dissolved. She even took back her maiden name, Rodriguez. I should never have given it up, she said. Sophia was the surprise. Quiet, artistic Sophia turned out to have been documenting everything in her sketchbooks, not drawings, but observations, notes about Wayne's phone calls, his absence patterns, overheard conversations. She'd known something was wrong, but hadn't known how to voice it. I'm sorry, she said one afternoon, showing me pages of careful notes. I should have said something. You're 13, I reminded her. This wasn't your responsibility. He's not my real dad, anyway, she said quietly. My real dad lives in California. Wayne made me call him Dad. The trial was set for September. Wayne faced 34 federal charges, each carrying significant prison time. The prosecutor estimated he'd serve at least 15 years, possibly 20. The restitution order would follow him for life. But the real justice came in smaller moments: Mom learning to use online banking, taking control of her finances for the first time. Sophia in therapy, finally free to express herself without Wayne's controlling presence. Ashley moving on, sadder but wiser. And me? I still had my spreadsheets, my tracking documents, but now they showed a different story: money sent to Mom directly, helping her rebuild, tuition payments for Sophia's art classes, donations to fraud victim support groups. The final irony came in August. A letter from Wayne in federal detention, handwritten on jail stationery. Nicole, I hope this finds you well. I've had time to reflect on my actions and realize the pain I've caused. I'm writing to apologize and to ask for your forgiveness. Perhaps we could work out an arrangement regarding the restitution. After all, we are still family, Wayne. I had Marcus draft the response. A simple cease and desist, warning that any further contact would result in additional charges. No forgiveness, no arrangement, no family. The 5th Christmas was still months away, but I knew how I'd spend it. At Mom's house, really hers now, with no one asking for investments or loans or emergency funds, just family, real family, gathered around a table we'd paid for ourselves. Wayne had taught me valuable lessons about trust, about verification, about the price of blind faith. Expensive lessons, but thorough ones. He'd created the very skills I'd used to destroy him: attention to detail, financial tracking, healthy suspicion. In the end, his greatest con was accidentally teaching his Mark to become a better predator than he'd ever been. The moment I filed the civil lawsuit alongside the criminal charges, Wayne's carefully constructed world began its final collapse. Marcus Webb had crafted something beautiful, a civil RICO case that treated Wayne's fraud as an ongoing criminal enterprise. Every financial institution he touched was subpoenaed, every account scrutinized. The discovery process was a digital archaeological dig through years of deception. He was sloppy, Marcus told me during one of our meetings. Criminals usually are when they think they are smarter than everyone else. The IRS investigation uncovered what we'd suspected: Wayne hadn't filed taxes for his LLC at all. 3 years of consulting income that existed only in his imagination, and my bank transfers. The penalties alone would crush him, even without the criminal charges. But it was the corporate fraud investigation that truly finished him. That legal staffing firm he'd mentioned working for as a paralegal assistant, they'd fired him for falsifying billing records. He'd been claiming client hours he never worked, pocketing the difference. They'd never pressed charges to avoid scandal. But now, with federal investigators calling, they were happy to cooperate. Wayne's attorney, court-appointed since all his assets were frozen, tried one last desperate play. A meeting was requested. My client has information about other fraudulent schemes he could share in exchange for leniency. I sat across from Wayne in a federal building conference room. Marcus beside me, watching the man who'd bled me dry for 4 years. Orange jumpsuit, shackled hands. The country club tan had faded to prison pallor. Nicole, he started, attempting his old charm. You look well. State your offer, Marcus said curtly. My client has knowledge of a network of individuals engaged in similar schemes, names, methods, contact information. In exchange for this cooperation, we are proposing a plea deal, 5 years instead of 20. No, I said. You haven't heard the full. No, I leaned forward. You took 4 years from me. 4 years of watching my mother glow over lies. 4 years of funding your double life. 4 years of Sophia thinking this was what family looked like. 5 years isn't enough. Wayne's mask finally cracked. You vindictive. I gave your mother happiness. I gave that kid a father figure. You gave them fraud and betrayal. You gave Ashley promises built on my money. You gave yourself a lifestyle you couldn't earn. I stood. Enjoy your 20 years, Wayne. Maybe you can run investment seminars in prison. The trial began in late September. The federal prosecutor, Amanda Chen, no relation to Bradley, was a pit bull in Prada. She laid out the case methodically: financial records, email trails, the recorded conversations. Ashley testified via video link, still in Spokane, detailing Wayne's promises and lies. Even Bradley Chen appeared, part of his cooperation agreement, explaining how Wayne had invested stolen money into his Ponzi scheme. Mom testified on day 3. She wore the navy dress I'd bought her. No jewelry except Dad's wedding ring on a chain around her neck. Her testimony was quiet, but devastating. A widow's trust exploited, a family's finances drained. A marriage built entirely on deception. Did you ever see any of the money your daughter sent? Amanda Chen asked. No, Wayne handled everything. He said I wasn't good with numbers. Were you aware your daughter had sent approximately $148,000 over 4 years? Mom's voice broke. No, I thought he said she helped sometimes, small amounts. He said the consulting business was doing well. Sophia testified in closed session, the judge clearing the courtroom. I waited outside, but Mom told me later that Sophia had been remarkable, clear, precise, unflinching in her account of Wayne's behavior and lies. The defense was pitiful. Wayne's attorney tried to paint me as a vengeful daughter who'd entrapped a struggling stepfather. He suggested the money was freely given, that Wayne had intended to pay it back when he could. The Phoenix Ventures scheme was presented as a misunderstanding. Amanda Chen destroyed each argument, the fake business cards Wayne had printed, the forged documents, the tax returns that didn't exist. She presented Wayne's spending patterns, cash withdrawals matching Ashley's rent, purchases at high-end stores while claiming poverty to Mom. This wasn't desperation, she told the jury. This was deliberate, calculated fraud perpetrated against a family that trusted him. The verdict came on October 2nd, guilty on all counts. Wire fraud, mail fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, conspiracy, identity theft. He'd used Mom's information to open credit cards she never knew about. The judge called it one of the most comprehensive cases of familial financial abuse she'd seen. Sentencing was set for November. The pre-sentencing report recommended 18 to 22 years. Restitution of $148,000 to me, plus interest, additional fines to the IRS, payments to the credit card companies he defrauded. Wayne aged a decade between verdict and sentencing. When he stood before the judge, he was a shadow of the confident man who'd married my mother. His allocution was a masterpiece of non-apology. I regret that my actions caused pain. I was trying to provide for my family. I hope someday they can forgive me. Judge Patricia Hernandez wasn't moved. Mr. Hutchinson, you systematically defrauded a woman who loved you and a daughter who wanted to help her mother. You abused trust, exploited grief, and corrupted a child's understanding of family. You've shown no genuine remorse, only regret at being caught. 22 years, maximum security, for the first 5 due to the financial amounts involved. Lifetime supervised release. Restitution payments that would follow him to the grave. Wayne collapsed into his chair. His attorney whispered about appeals, but we all knew it was over. Outside the courthouse, Mom stood in the November drizzle, looking simultaneously older and younger than her years. Is it wrong that I feel relieved? She asked. No, I said. It's not wrong at all. We drove to the house, her house, in silence. Sophia was there with the therapist we'd hired, working on an art project. She looked up when we entered, a question in her eyes. 22 years, Mom said simply. Sophia nodded and returned to her painting. Later, I saw what she'd created. A house of cards collapsing, each card labeled with one of Wayne's lies. It was beautiful and heartbreaking. That evening, I updated my spreadsheet one final time. Money recovered from frozen accounts, $47,000. Items seized and auctioned, $23,000. Insurance claims from the identity theft, $12,000. Still short of what I'd lost, but it wasn't about the money anymore. Mom found me at the kitchen table, laptop open to the financial summary. You saved us, she said quietly. You saved yourself. I just provided the evidence. She sat beside me, looking at the numbers. I should have known. Should have asked questions. Should have protected you. He was a professional con artist, Mom. He's fooled dozens of people over decades. You were targeted because you're kind, because you trust, because you loved Dad and missed having a partner. I closed the laptop. Those aren't weaknesses. He made them weapons, but they are not weaknesses. What do we do now? She asked. Now we rebuild, we learn, we move forward, I smiled. And we never, ever give anyone financial control without verification. She laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd heard from her in months. Trust but verify. Trust but verify everything. Bank statements, tax returns, employment history, credit reports, the full background check. You're going to be a terrifying mother-in-law someday, she said. Good. My future spouse better have impeccable financial records. We sat in comfortable silence. Two women who'd learned expensive lessons about trust and verification. In the living room, Sophia was teaching her therapist to paint. The house felt different, lighter, cleaner, free of Wayne's suffocating presence. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Federal conviction in major fraud case sends Portland man to prison for 22 years. Wayne's mugshot stared out from the screen, followed by a detailed account of his crimes. By morning, everyone would know what he'd done. Should we be concerned about publicity? Mom asked, reading over my shoulder. Let them publish it. Let everyone know what he was. Maybe it'll prevent him from doing this to anyone else when he gets out. If he got out. 22 years was a long time for a man in his 50s. He might never taste freedom again. Might never have another chance to weave his web of lies. Justice felt strange. Not satisfying, exactly, but final, complete. The spreadsheet was closed. The case was won. The family was safe. Tomorrow, we'd start the real work of healing. Tonight, we'd simply breathe, free from the weight of Wayne's endless deceptions. 4 years of fraud ended with 22 years of consequences. The math finally made sense. The conversation I'd been dreading came 3 weeks after Wayne's sentencing. Mom called me over for coffee on a Saturday morning. Her voice careful in a way that meant a serious discussion ahead. I found her in the kitchen, documents spread across the table like evidence in her own investigation. Sit, she said, pouring coffee from the pod I'd bought her last Christmas. We need to talk about the future. The papers were bank statements, bills, tax documents, all the financial records Wayne had hidden from her for years. She'd been studying them with the intensity of a student preparing for finals. I've been thinking, she began, then stopped, staring into her coffee. About everything, about how I let this happen. Mom, no, let me finish. She looked up, and her eyes were clear, determined. I gave up control. Nicole, after your father died, I was so tired, so overwhelmed. When Wayne came along and offered to handle everything, I was relieved. I didn't want to think about money or bills or investments. I wanted someone to take care of me. That's understandable. You'd been through. It's understandable, but it's not acceptable. She pushed a document toward me. I've enrolled in financial literacy classes at the community college. Twice a week. I'm going to learn everything, banking, investing, taxes, everything Wayne said I was too stupid to understand. I picked up the enrollment form, surprised. Mom, that's wonderful. I'm 58 years old and I don't know how to read a bank statement properly. That changes now. She pulled out another paper. I've also made an appointment with a financial advisor, a real one, recommended by the Fraud Victim Support Group. I want to understand where I stand, what I have, what I need. I can help with that. No. Her voice was firm. I appreciate everything you've done, Nicole, you saved us, but I can't depend on you the way I depended on Wayne. I need to stand on my own feet. It was what I'd wanted to hear for years, but it still stung. I'm not trying to control. I know you're not, but I need to do this myself, make my own mistakes, ask my own questions. I've been talking to my therapist about it. She calls it reclaiming agency. Mom smiled. Apparently, I gave mine away long before Wayne showed up. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of truth between us. There's something else, she continued. The house. I've been thinking about selling it. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. What? Why? The house is paid off. It's full of ghosts, she gestured around the kitchen. Your father's ghost, which I want to keep, but also Wayne's, which I don't. Every room has a memory of him lying to me, manipulating me, stealing from us. I want a fresh start. Where would you go? There's a condo development in Beaverton, smaller, manageable, close to Sophia's school. The equity from this place would let me buy something outright, and have money left for a real emergency fund. She smiled. My own money in my own account that only I can access. It made financial sense. It made emotional sense. But this house had been my childhood home, my father's dream, the place I'd fought to protect from Wayne's grasp. I know it's hard, Mom said, reading my face. But holding on to things, because of what they used to mean, isn't healthy. Trust me, I'm an expert at that. Now, what about Sophia? She's part of this decision. We've talked about it. She wants a room she can paint, literally paint the walls. A space that was never Wayne's. Mom pulled out her phone, showing me photos of the condo. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, a balcony with room for a garden, walking distance to the library, where I'm thinking of volunteering. You've really thought this through. I've done nothing but think for 3 weeks. She reached across the table, taking my hand. But I need to know you're okay with it. This house, I know what it means to you. What you sacrificed to keep it. I squeezed her hand. It's your house, Mom. Your life, your decision. See, you're learning boundaries, too. She laughed, but her eyes were wet. We are both recovering from Wayne in our own ways. She was right. I'd become so focused on protecting her that I'd forgotten she was a capable adult who'd raised me, survived my father's death, built a life. Wayne had dimmed that strength, but he hadn't destroyed it. So, what's the timeline? I asked. Spring. I want to do this right. Repairs, staging, finding the perfect buyer, someone who will love it like we did. She pulled out another document. I've interviewed real estate agents, 3 of them, asked for references, checked reviews, verified licenses. I may have gone overboard. There's no such thing as overboard anymore. That's what I figured. She shuffled through more papers. Oh, and I've been in touch with Sophia's biological father. Turns out Wayne had been intercepting his calls, his letters. The man's been trying to maintain contact for years. Another lie uncovered. Another relationship Wayne had sabotaged. How's Sophia handling that? Cautiously. They are starting with supervised video calls. The therapist is mediating. Mom shook her head. So much damage to undo, but we are undoing it one thread at a time. We spent the rest of the morning going through her plans, the financial literacy curriculum, the timeline for selling the house, the support group meetings she'd been attending. She'd created her own spreadsheets, crude compared to mine, but functional, income, expenses, savings goals, everything Wayne had told her she couldn't understand. I've been thinking about getting a job, too, she said as I prepared to leave. Nothing fancy. Maybe at the library or a bookstore. Something part-time, my own money earned by my own work. You don't need to. Yes, I do. I spent 4 years being kept, being grateful for an allowance from money that wasn't even his. I need to earn something myself, even if it's minimum wage. Can you understand that? I could. The need for independence, for self-sufficiency, for never being vulnerable to another Wayne. It was the same drive that had made me track every penny, document every lie, build the case that sent him to prison. I'm proud of you, I said, meaning it. Dad would be too. I hope so. I lost my way for a while, but I'm finding it again. She walked me to the door. Oh, I almost forgot. The victim's advocate called. They recovered another $12,000 from an account Wayne had in Nevada. It'll be a while before you see it, but it's something. Another account, another secret, even imprisoned, Wayne's deceptions continued surfacing like debris from a shipwreck. Keep it, I said. For your emergency fund. Nicole, consider it an investment in your independence. The best return I could ask for. She hugged me then, fierce and strong. The mother I remembered from before grief and Wayne had worn her down. I'm going to make you proud. Make myself proud. No more hiding from hard things. As I drove away, I thought about Wayne in his federal cell. No longer able to access the accounts he'd hidden, the women he'd deceived, the family he'd plundered. He'd wanted to keep Mom dependent, vulnerable, easily controlled. Instead, his crimes had forced her to become someone stronger than she'd ever been. 22 years he'd serve. In that same time, Mom would build a new life, own her own home, manage her own money, maybe find real love with someone who respected her strength instead of exploiting her trust. Sophia would graduate high school, go to college, become an artist, or whatever she chose. The fraud victim support group would help others recognize the warning signs, avoid the trap we'd fallen into. And me? I'd learned to let go, to trust Mom's newfound strength, to stop monitoring, stop protecting, stop treating her like a potential victim instead of a survivor. Wayne had stolen 4 years and $148,000. In return, he'd inadvertently given us something priceless. The knowledge of our own resilience, the ability to spot deception, the strength to rebuild. It was a transaction he'd never intended, an investment with returns he'd never see. The best kind of revenge was living well, they said. But the best kind of justice. That was watching the woman Wayne had tried to diminish learn to handle her own finances, make her own decisions, build her own future. Mom was right. Spring would bring new beginnings, a new home without ghosts, new skills without dependencies, new boundaries without manipulation. Wayne would spend spring in a concrete cell, counting down decades. We'd spend it planting gardens on that balcony in Beaverton, measuring our recovery not in dollars reclaimed, but in confidence rebuilt. The mathematics of justice weren't always clean, but sometimes the intangible returns outweighed any financial loss. Christmas Eve, Year 5, I stood in my new apartment in Tacoma, boxes still stacked against the walls, looking out at the Puget Sound. The water was gray and choppy, matching the winter sky, no decorations, no tree, no festive preparations, just me, a bottle of wine, and the silence I'd chosen. The move had been strategic. After Wayne's conviction, after Mom found her strength, after the endless legal proceedings finally concluded, I needed distance. Not from Mom. We talked twice a week now, real conversations about her classes, her job at the library, her growing confidence, but from Portland, from the memories, from the version of myself who'd sent money every month without question. My phone sat dark on the counter. In previous years, it would have been lighting up with requests, guilt trips, emergencies that weren't emergencies. Now, nothing. Mom had my number, of course, and Sophia texted occasionally, usually photos of her art, which had grown darker, but more powerful since Wayne's arrest, but the frantic calls, the monetary SOS signals, the manipulations disguised as family needs, those were gone. I'd been promoted at Carrington and Field, Senior Vice President of Risk Assessment. Marcus Webb had laughed when I'd gotten the position. Most qualified candidate we've ever had, he'd said. You've got a doctorate in fraud detection from the University of Hard Knocks. The doorbell rang. Unexpected. I wasn't expecting anyone. Hadn't given out my address. When I opened it, Mom stood there with a small potted pine tree and a hesitant smile. Before you say anything, she began, I'm not here to ask for money. I'm not here to guilt you about spending Christmas alone. I'm just here because you're my daughter and I missed you. I let her in, too surprised to protest. She set the pine on my coffee table. Its tiny lights, battery-powered, were already twinkling. How did you find me? I'm learning a lot of new skills, she said, unwrapping her scarf. Including how to use public record searches. Financial literacy teacher says information is power. We sat on my couch, the only furniture I'd unpacked so far. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the quiet of two people who'd said all the hard things already. I got the final victim restitution check last week, Mom said eventually. Another $8,000 from an account in Wyoming. The FBI says that's likely the last of it. Keep it, I said automatically. I already donated it, she smiled at my surprise, to the Fraud Victims Support Group. They're starting a program for financial literacy education, calling it the Nicole Martinez Initiative, if you approve. My throat tightened. Mom, you saved us. But more than that, you showed us how to save ourselves. Other people need that knowledge, that power. She reached into her purse, pulling out a wrapped package. I know we said no gifts, but this isn't from me. It's from Sophia. Inside was a painting. A woman standing in front of a computer screen filled with numbers, but the numbers were transforming into birds flying free at the bottom. In Sophia's careful handwriting, thank you for teaching us to fly. She's applying to art schools. Mom continued, has a part-time job to help with applications. She could have asked you for money, knows you would have given it, but she wanted to earn it herself. You taught her that, too. I didn't teach anyone anything. You taught us that love isn't measured in money sent without question. That help isn't helpful if it enables deception. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do is demand accountability. Mom took my hand. I spent 4 years asleep, Nicole. You woke me up. We sat quietly, watching the tiny lights on the tiny tree. Outside, fairy horns echoed across the water. Somewhere in federal prison, Wayne was spending his second Christmas behind bars. 20 more to go. Ashley had moved to Oregon. According to social media, she'd started over with hard-won wisdom. Bradley Chen was serving his own sentence. His Ponzi scheme collapsed. I'm seeing someone, Mom said suddenly. Met him at the financial literacy class. He's an accountant. Boring, stable, shows me his tax returns without being asked. She laughed. I verification checked him so thoroughly. He jokes about needing a security clearance to date me. Good for you. His name's Robert, divorced, 2 grown kids, manages his own money responsibly. We are taking it slow, very slow, but it's nice to have coffee with someone who doesn't see me as a mark. My phone buzzed. An email from the federal prosecutor. Wayne had attempted to file an appeal, claiming ineffective counsel. It had been denied. Every avenue he tried led to the same destination. 22 years of consequences for 4 years of theft. You know what I realized? Mom said, standing to look out my window. Wayne stole money, but he gave us something invaluable. He taught us to never be victims again. Every woman in my support group, every person who hears our story, they learn what we learned, the red flags, the manipulation tactics, the importance of financial independence. Expensive education. The best educations usually are, I said. She turned back to me. But here's what Wayne never understood. We are not defined by what was taken from us. We are defined by how we responded. You responded by becoming an avenging angel. I responded by finally growing up at 58. Sophia responded by documenting truth through art. Even Ashley responded by starting over. And Wayne responded by trying to blame everyone else. That's why he's in prison and we are free. She collected her purse, preparing to leave. I should go. Robert's making dinner from scratch, with receipts for every ingredient, because he knows I'll ask. I walked her to the door. Thanks for coming for the tree. Thanks for saving us, she replied. Even when we didn't know we needed saving. After she left, I sat in my empty apartment with my tiny tree and Sophia's painting. No requests for money, no guilt, no manipulation, just gratitude and growth, and the kind of love that doesn't come with a price tag. I opened my laptop and looked at the old spreadsheet one last time. $148,000 sent over 4 years, maybe $70,000 recovered through legal channels. On paper, a $78,000 loss. But the real accounting was different. Mom's independence, priceless. Sophia's strength, invaluable. My own transformation from enabler to protector, worth every penny lost. Wayne's 22 years in prison, justice served. I closed the spreadsheet and deleted it. The past was audited, reconciled, closed. The future was a blank ledger waiting for new entries. No more tracking other people's lies. No more funding other people's deceptions. Just my own life, my own choices, my own carefully guarded trust. Outside, snow began to fall. Unusual for Tacoma. It dusted the water, the buildings, the world in temporary white. A blank slate, a fresh start, a fifth Christmas free from the weight of Wayne's endless needs. I raised my wine glass to the window, toasting the man who taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. Trust, but verify. Love, but don't be blind. Help, but not enable. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Somewhere in Montana, in a concrete cell, Wayne Hutchinson was probably composing another letter asking for forgiveness, for money, for one more chance. It would never reach me. That address, that version of myself who would have considered it, no longer existed. What remained was harder, smarter, and infinitely more valuable than the woman who'd once sent money without question. Wayne had created his own destroyer, teaching through betrayal what trust really meant and exactly how much it should cost. $148,000 for a doctorate in human nature. Expensive, but thorough. Worth every penny. The story ends here.